Thank you so much, Mr. President. I'm glad to bring to the stage former president from somebody who was a president of a bird organization where I used to live in DC. Just a bunch of presidents here, you know? Um, but without further ado, I would love to introduce Nick Komar. Um, he is the recipient of the CFO 2024 Directors Award, as he was president for CFO from 2019 and 23. He also served on the board of directors of the Fort Collins Audubon Society and the Rocky Mountain Bird Observatory. Nick Komar's motto is work hard, play hard. He was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's disease more than 20 years ago. This illness slowed him down and eventually caused his early retirement at 57, prematurely ending his 25-year career as a biologist at the CDC, where he served as an expert on viruses maintained in nature by birds and mosquitoes. Nick had a dream of completing a big year since he was a kid. Nick began birding at the age of 7 and soon after began studying birds, publishing articles on birding and birds. After moving to Fort Collins in 1997 with a Doctor of Science degree from Harvard University, he became involved in the local birding community. He led many field trips and field identification workshops. He created Quetzal Tours, a birding tourism company. After retiring, he jumped at the opportunity to compete in a big year in 2023. Nick likes to be a trendsetter rather than a follower, hence the twist of including the territories and creating the opportunity for establishing a new world record. He documented as many of his birds as possible using digital photography and audio recording and tracked his observations in eBird. Photos of 810 species of birds from his biggest year project are displayed at the website that I'm going to share in the chat. But without further ado, I'd like to bring to the stage former president, always president in our hearts, Nick Komar.
Thank you, Techie. Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Let me know when you can. Oh, do I have to? Maybe I have to hit share.
That would help.
Let's try that. All right, let's see.
With the powers of the former presidency, you will share your screen.
Here it comes.
Yeah, the magic kind of lags when you're a former president. You'll get it one day, Chuck. You know, this is just, former president. The powers don't work the same way as they used to. You know, we're just has-beens, just trying to just trying to be in the world.
Can you see my screen now?
Not yet, but I believe in you, Nick. I believe in you.
Try again.
Share what's going on there. You should be able to share.
Yeah.
No.
There it is. Without further ado.
Yes.
And then you're going to go full screen from the beginning. Yeah.
There you go.
Very well. I'm going to slip backstage, but if you need anything, I'm right here.
Okay, great. Okay, so my title is My Biggest Year, A Quest for 900 Birds in the USA and Territories. And I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about Parkinson's disease. It's a subject I don't like to talk about very much because my attitude, my approach to it is to ignore it, pretend I don't have it, and not let it interfere with my goals. But the reality is that it does interfere in many ways. Right now, you're probably having some difficulty understanding my speech because I have slurred speech. So I have to be very careful and enunciate as much as possible. Parkinson's disease is caused by a loss of dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter. It's produced in the brain. It's progressive illness. There's no treatment for it. There's no curative treatment for it yet. It leads to a condition that's essentially premature aging. Usually people get it after the age of 60. And it's characterized by, it's sometimes characterized by early onset, typically in young adulthood. So for example, I was diagnosed at the age of 37, 38. And Michael J. Fox, for example, was in his 30s. So, but the syndrome that it causes is somewhat like aging. People lose their motor functions, so they don't move as smoothly and easily. They develop tremors, dyskinesias, which are extraneous movements. Clarity of thinking can be lost. Yeah, so for me, how it affects my birding, it slows me down. I hike more slowly, which gives me a chance to see more birds, perhaps, but my eye movement is slower. So I have a hard time tracking the birds. I have a hard time moving the binoculars to my eyes. Tying shoes is very difficult for someone with Parkinson's. Anyway, so that's what I'm dealing with here. And you'll probably notice it as you watch me speak too. But going on, oops, the wrong button. Okay, so I'd like to start off by giving a brief history of ABA birding big ears. ABA is the American Birding Association, which I think was founded in 1969. So the first big ear, well, Benton Basham was the first person to report over 700 species in his big year in 1983. You may remember that Ken Kaufman did a big year in 1972 or 1973. He was trying to see 700 species, but he didn't make it. He didn't achieve that goal. In 1988, Sandy Comito broke Ben Basham's record with 725 species. In 1998, there were three competitors who broke the 700 barrier: Greg Miller, Al Levantin, and Sandy Comito. And their competition was immortalized in Mark O'Masick's book, The Big Year, which later became a movie. Comito established a new record that year with 748 species. He was from New Jersey. So in 2011, same year that The Big Year became a movie, Colorado birder John Vanderpool won the annual Big Year competition with 744 species, second place all time behind Sandy Comito. And he wrote a book about it called Full Chase Mode. But at that time, the ABA area did not include Hawaii. In 2016, Hawaii was added to the ABA area, which allowed people to achieve much higher bird list numbers. And John Weigel set the new all-time record for the ABA area, including Hawaii, in 2019 with 840 species. So, as Taiki mentioned, I don't like to follow in other people's footsteps. So I created a new category, USA and territories. The territories can add about 100 new species to the list, which brings us within range of 900 species for USA Big Year. That seemed pretty exciting to me, so I set on myself on a track to accomplish this as soon as I could after I retired, which was one day after I retired. I retired on December 31st, 2022. The next day I started my big year. So what are the territories? The territories are Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands, which is shown on this map is situated about in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So you can imagine that it has quite a few more species to add, about probably 40 species to add. Another territory is American Samoa, a set of islands in the South Pacific, about 1,500 miles south of Hawaii. Another territory is in the Western Pacific, near Japan, Guam, and the Northern Mariana Islands. It's I think a few thousand miles west of Hawaii. So there are different birds in each of these places. So I'll give you a quick pop quiz to see if you're paying attention. Why did I choose the USA and territories as an big year target? And this is a multiple choice question. So the choices are, and by the way, you can look this up in your book at home. So you should be able to get the answers. I had just retired from my 25-year career at CDC as a zoonotic disease ecologist and needed a hobby. B, to offer a new challenge to the birding world rather than follow in others' footsteps. C, to attract more birders to visit the territories which are underbirded and severely threatened by vulnerable island ecosystems. D, to establish a new world record in competitive birding. And another possibility is E, all of the above. If you answered E, you are correct. So to do a big year, you need a strategic plan. And my plan was to utilize ebird.org as a way of managing my checklists and my observations and for making my observations transparent to the birding world. I would document all species, all rare species with descriptions, photos, and audio within eBird. I have witnesses with me as much as possible, and you can see who those people are by looking at the eBird checklists. Also, another plan was to subsidize the costs by guiding tours. I had a tour company, Quetzal Tours, that I could utilize to promote tours and charge a reasonable amount of money for the tours to cover my expenses. Design tour itineraries for ABA Code 2 species, and I'll explain what the code system is. The American Birding Association assigns a code number to every bird on the ABA checklist. Code 1 is bird that breeds in North America, or bird that breeds in the ABA area and is relatively easy to find. Code 2 is a bird that breeds in the ABA area and is relatively difficult to find. Code 3, 4, and 5 are all birds that do not breed in the ABA area and are increasingly difficult to find. So code 3 birds are typically found every year. Code 4 birds are maybe every 5 years or less. And code 5 birds are more than every 5 years. Code 6 birds are extinct. So I looked at other people's experiences, in particular John Vanderpoel's experience, and noticed that he saw about 40 code 3, 4, or 5 species, what I call code 3 plus. So I knew that I needed to see at least 40 as well. That was my goal. And for this presentation, I will summarize each of my trips and the highlights from those trips, focusing on the code 3 plus species that I encountered. And we should be done in about an hour. So I started off with the Christmas bird counts in my local area, Loveland and Estes Park, January 1st and 4th. And got my list up to about 80 species in the first 4 days. This is Bohemian waxwing in Loveland. And then the first tour was to Southern California early in January. We had a nice group of people, about 6 people, or maybe it was 5. Anyway, didn't see too many rare vagrants, but we had some nice, unique birds for Southern California, like this rail on the left, which is the Ridgeways rail. And this exotic species on the right is burrowing parakeet, a species from Argentina. It's free ranging in Southern California. It's not yet countable by ABA standards, but it will be one of these days. And then at the end of the tour, this tour was in Southern California, in San Diego County mainly. At the end, I did a chase trip to chase my first ABA 3+ bird of the year. On the left here, this is a female streak-backed oriole coming to feeder in Inyo County. And the other bird here is a beautiful male Costas hummingbird that was overwintering at this feeding area as well. So then John Vanderpool led a group of us to South Texas, January 19th to 26th, where we found several code 3+ birds, including Apple falcon. Is that code 3? That might be a code 2, because they nest. On the left is Apple falcon, and on the right, going counterclockwise, is green jay, beautiful bird, is code 1. It was one of the highlights from South Texas, Rio Grande Valley. And then we've got a tropical parula. You can tell it's not a northern parula because it lacks the white eye arcs. And then on the lower right, we have the rose-throated Picard, immature male. That's code 3. And then to its left, we have Audubon's oriole, which is a code 2. One of my favorite birds on the South Texas trip was finding the Sprague's pipit at Falcon Dam State Park. It winters in grassland here, and it's a tough bird for me to see normally. I think it's a code 1 or 2. I'm not sure which one. We rounded up a bunch of the birders in the area to try to get views of this bird. Next trip was to Puerto Rico, January 26th to February 1st. It was a trip guided by Julio Salgado, an excellent birder and guide in Puerto Rico, and attended by 4 clients. So these are all Puerto Rican endemic species. Puerto Rico is an older island compared to the South Pacific Islands, so it's got more bird species there. 345 bird species have been reported from the island of Puerto Rico on eBird. There's about 20 endemic species endemic to Puerto Rico, and there's additional species that are endemic to the Caribbean area. So this is going across the top here in counterclockwise fashion. We have the Puerto Rican toady, Puerto Rican flycatcher, Puerto Rican oriole, Puerto Rican parrot, which is endangered, Puerto Rican woodpeckers, and Puerto Rican mango. And here's some more endemics, starting with the top left. Puerto Rican lizard cuckoo, Adelaide's warbler, another endangered species, the yellow-shouldered blackbird, Puerto Rican euphonia, Puerto Rican spindalis, and the Puerto Rican tanager in the bottom left. An interesting bird that's not actually a tanager at all. It's more closely related to a sparrow or a towhee. And then some Caribbean endemics from Puerto Rico. Top left, we've got West Indian whistling duck. And going counterclockwise, Caribbean Elenia, red-legged thrush, black-faced grassquit, and finally the yellow-faced grassquit. More Caribbean endemics, we've got the greater Antillean grackle in the top left, white-eyed, pearly-eyed thrasher, top center, native dove, top right, scaly nape pigeon, lower right, center right, center bottom, we have the lesser Antillean pewee. And then in the bottom left, we've got an immature shiny cowbird. Our favorite bird from the tour was the white-tailed tropic bird. And these were just off the coast, displaying at a nesting site. There's a cliff there. And note the bright orange bill. The population of white-tailed tropic birds in the South Pacific has yellow bills. These might be someday split into separate species. The rarest bird in Puerto Rico during the tour was not this brown pelican, but the tern to the right of it. Small tern. It's from Europe. Anybody guess what this tern is? Correct. It's white-winged tern. You can see the white patch on the wing. It's a non-breeding plumage here. But it's a rare bird there, and it's an ABA code 4 in the United States. It's probably just as rare there, though. After the tour, I spent some time on another island near Puerto Rico called the island of Vieques. Picked up a few more species, including this overwintering ruff and some other species from Vieques were banana quit, lesser Antillean crested hummingbird, bottom left, smooth-billed ani, and loggerhead kingbird. Next trip was a driving trip from Fort Collins to Saxon Bog in Minnesota, where the targets were owls. And as you can see, we got photographs of numerous species of owls, including great gray, snowy, northern hawk owl, long-eared owl, and barred owl. And then next week, I visited Massachusetts in the beginning of March. And picked up several code 3+ species, including the one on the left here, next to the small goose, next to the Canada goose. The small goose has a black breast and a white face. And this would be the barnacle goose in Concord, Massachusetts. And then the bird to its right is looks like a ring-billed gull without a ring, right? It's a common gull from Europe. Then we had a group of us, 5 or 6 of us, did a tour of Central California. Greg Osland was on that group, and I saw that he's on the call tonight. We had a local tour leader, Logan Cayley, who helped point out numerous rare birds, including some ABA code 3+ birds. One of the ones, so these included tufted duck, which was actually just the day after the tour. I went and chased this bird myself. And the next one is wood sandpiper. Next one is Eurasian widgeon. And then coming down on the right here is the red flanked bluetail at Santa Cruz. Another ruff, overwintering ruff, bottom left, and then the tundra bean goose with the Canada goose. All of these are strays from Asia. So coming back to Colorado in the middle of March, heard about a common crane in Keith County, Nebraska. So I called my friend Cole Wild and we went for a driving trip. And Cole spotted the bird amongst a huge number of sandhill cranes. We probably looked at 10,000 cranes that day. So it's a needle in a haystack. And there's two out there now, actually. I might be going to look for one tomorrow. Okay, the next trip is southeastern Arizona. I was with Scott Rashid for this trip. Blue-throated hummingbird is one of the highlight species. We didn't see any other ABA code 3+ birds though. Then I had 2 chicken run tours scheduled for April. And the birds seen here are unusual birds, but they're not rare. They're just, they're unique to Colorado, including the white tailed ptarmigan, greater prairie chicken, greater sage grouse, and brown-capped rosy finch. Some of the target species for that tour. In the end of April, I joined the repositioning cruise from San Diego to Vancouver, Canada. And this is a fun, inexpensive tour on a cruise ship. There were probably 80 other birders on this cruise ship, steaming up the coast from San Diego to Vancouver. And we saw over a dozen species of seabirds, including this rare one, Murphy's petrel. Then from Vancouver, I flew directly to Houston, Texas, to enjoy the end of the spring migration there along the coast with my son. And one of the best birds we had that day was king rail that week. So the next tour is to South Florida. There were a couple of people with me. The only ABA code 3+ bird we saw was the Bahama mockingbird that we chased. And then came back and immediately jumped in the car with a couple of friends in Fort Collins to do a West Texas road trip through Big Bend National Park and the Edwards Plateau region of Texas for target birds like a black-capped vireo and golden-cheeked warbler. And at Big Bend National Park, we found the Kalima warbler as our target. And also this special ABA code 3+ bird, crescent-chested warbler, which had shown up 3 days earlier and was on a territory. I think it's only the second record. It was first, I believe it was the first state record for Texas. Came back the night of May 19th. And then in the early morning on May 20th, I joined the Colorado Birding Challenge, which is an ABA, it's a big day, it's a big day to raise money for conservation. A little bit sleep deprived. And as a result, I ran out of the house that morning at 4 a.m. without a belt on and sandals. So I spent the whole day birding by bicycle in sandals. But we added a couple species to the list that day, so it was fun. And including this dusky grouse that walked across the road up at the top of Risk Canyon. A week later, so that actually, a week later, I was now in first place in the ABA area competition, which was very exciting. And I had a trip planned to Adak, Alaska with the McQuades. David and Tammy McQuaid. They were in second place and third place at the time. But at the end of the week, I think they were in first and second, and I was in third place. So it was fun to bird with them. And we added another 5 species of ABA code 3+ birds here, including this hawfinch and brambling. Then I met a group of birders in Nome, Alaska for a tour that I organized to Gamble. So we spent 3 days in Nome and picked up 5 more ABA code 3+ birds, including gray-tailed tattler, shown here, redneck stint, Siberian sandplover, standard scoter, and white wagtail, all birds from Asia. So in Nome, I reached the 700 level, and at Gamble, Alaska, from June 4th to 8th, we added a bunch more species from Asia, including the greater ringed plover, Siberian house martin, rustic bunting, Ross's gull, Arctic loon, and slayback gull. Ross's gull is pictured here. You can see its pink breast and thin gray collar mark. Coming back from Alaska, I had a tour organized to Wisconsin and Minnesota to fill in the gap of breeding birds. And we found, I think, 4 more species here, including the Kirtland's warbler, which nests in Wisconsin as well as Michigan. Following week, I took a group of people to Maine, where Eric Hines guided us, and we added 5 more species, including this Atlantic puffin. And then that was the end of my tours for a while. I had some time to chase some rarities, including this rarity code 3+ tern bird in Florida. This is the large-billed tern. It's similar to a black skimmer, actually. It's hanging out with black skimmers. And back in Colorado in July, chased a few birds that had fallen through the cracks, including Baird's sparrow, shown here, Calliope hummingbird, shown here on the right, and black swift. And then another chase trip to Florida and Texas, the end of July, picked up American flamingo and brown jay down along the Mexican border. An immature brown jay, shown here on the right. And then during the monsoon season, I had organized a tour to southeastern Arizona because there's usually many rare hummingbirds that turn up there. So between August 5th and 12th, I had a large tour. We were totally full that trip. Eric Defonso was the driver. And we found 5 ABA code 3+ species, including the 4 pictured here, which is the 5-striped sparrow, rufous-capped warbler, white-eared hummingbird, and plain-capped starthroat. The other one was black-capped gnatcatcher. Okay, and then the whole month went by without me adding any new birds. It was the doldrums of summer. And I chased a bunch of birds, but could not find them. I eventually added a new species on September 10th from Southern California, the yellow-footed gull. This gull, to me, looks more like a duck than a gull. And then I went back to Florida, where I unsuccessfully chased the gray gull and was successful in finding it this time, September 12th. That gray gull was the second ever reported for North America. Is probably the first one that will be accepted. So there's a new North American record, new USA record. Then I went out to Massachusetts to look for pelagic birds and added great shearwater. Then I came back to Puerto Rico on September 27th to October 1st and added 4 new species of birds. Let's see. Brown booby was not new. Caribbean martin was new. Yellow-breasted crake was new on the lower right. Gold-billed tern was not new, but a rare bird for Puerto Rico. And then 2 other species in Puerto Rico, which was the Indian silverbill and the long-tailed whita, pintail whita. Pintail whita and Indian silverbill are both exotic species in Puerto Rico, but they're countable because they're established populations. There are quite a few exotic species in Puerto Rico. I'll mention them now. We got blue and yellow macaw, top left, pintail whita, Venezuelan troupial, going counterclockwise here, white-winged parakeet, red bishop, bronze mannequin, orange-cheeked waxbill, and African collared dove. Then coming back from Puerto Rico, I spent a couple of days in Florida chasing a rare ABA code 3+ species, thick-billed vireo, that had been found by Beto Matthews, who was a Denver birder and then moved to Florida. October 4th through 9th, I spent a few days in Arizona chasing rarities. Came up with 4 new species, all from Mexico. Rufous-backed robin, top left. Ruddy ground dove, female, top right. Bottom right is Virgin's female, and bottom left is tufted flycatcher. Next trip was to Hawaii. Where I spent 14 days there with Colorado birders John Vanderpool and Bill Kempfer. We're both doing big years. So we had a lot of fun trying to see the maximum number of species possible, which is about 54 species. The ABA area code 3, or the rarities there, were all pelagic species, including this Bulwer's petrel, top left, black-winged petrel, top right, Stanager's petrel, bottom right, and Nazca booby, bottom left. The Nazca booby is standing next to a masked booby. Unfortunately, you can't see the masked booby's bill there, but it's greenish. The Nazca booby has an orange bill. And then back in California, I took a pelagic boat trip October 29th and added Buller's shearwater. And then after that, I flew to Phoenix looking for a Chicana, but the Chicana had disappeared. So then I drove to Rio Grande Valley. 2 nights overnight in a row is not a good idea to drive. And I almost drove into a tractor trailer, actually, going in the opposite direction. So I learned my lesson there and decided that I wouldn't drive at night again. Shouldn't say I learned my lesson though, because I did drive at night again and ran into trouble. But anyway, down in the Rio Grande Valley, there are several species that I was able to add. Roadside hawk, golden crown warbler, and blue bunting were all code 3+ birds. And nutting flycatcher was a code 3+ bird. It's not pictured here, but that was back at What's the name of that national park? Big Bend National Park. And then I was able to do 3 days in a row on boats in November 10th to 12th, get the count up to 834 species with freshwater shearwater. And this is again, I ran into trouble driving at night. On the third night of the boat trip, third day, the boat departed from Bodega Bay at 2:30 in the morning. I was coming from Florida. So I was kind of tired that night and into the car in San Francisco at 11 p.m. I was driving to Bodega Bay and I fell asleep at the wheel and drove into the ditch at 50 miles an hour, and then woke up and managed to get the car out of the ditch, but all the I think of the word right now. The safety bags are deployed. Yeah, what are they called?
Airbags.
Airbags. The airbags deployed. And so couldn't drive the car anymore. And fortunately, another driver was driving along, pulled over, rolled his window down, and said, "Do you need a ride to the pelagic boat ride?" And it was another birder. So I was able to take that ride and didn't lose out on the the pelagic trip. So I had freshwater shearwater and also one other species, South Polar skua. The next 6 trips, I was able to add 6 more birds, 1 bird for each of those trips. Smith's longspur in eastern Kansas, cattle tyrant in Texas, Razorbill in Massachusetts, ruddy quail dove in Puerto Rico, little gull in Ohio, and Maui aloahio in Maui. So my count was up to 840 species now. And the Maui trip was en route to American Samoa, where I spent 6 days with my brother Oliver. American Samoa is a fabulous place to visit. Gorgeous scenery. Not too many birds there, though. 38 species of birds, and half of those are new birds for the big year. The amazing thing is that we saw no other tourists while we were there. And here's some of the bird species. These endemic, 2 endemic species. The Samoan Maizumela on the left, a black and red bird, kind of like a honey creeper. And the Samoan starling on the right. And then other birds of Samoa were unique, but not endemic to Samoa. These included lesser frigate bird, top left, blue-gray noddy, top right, Australasian swamp hen, bottom right, and crimson crowned fruit dove. And other unique birds for Samoa, the Pacific kingfisher, top left, eastern wattled honey eater, top center, white rumped swiftlet, top right, the imperial green pigeon, buff banded rail, and the Pacific Ocean version of the white-tailed tropical bird. You can see it's got a yellow bill. So that brought me to Guam after 4 additional days in Hawaii, unable to find anything new there. Guam was, unlike American Samoa, Guam had many Americans present. There's a large U.S. military presence there. The culture wasn't as preserved. And there's 2 islands in Guam and 3 islands in Mariana Islands nearby, which I was able to visit, and added 25 new species, bringing my total to 884 species. Birds of Guam were few and far between, but they were still interesting birds. Top left, we got the white tern, which I also saw in Hawaii. Top center is the Pacific reef heron, which comes in a dark form and also a white form. Below that is the little bittern, a lot like a least bittern. And to the right is the Micronesian starling. And then bottom left is common sandpiper, which is a Eurasian shorebird that winters there. And these are birds of Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Excuse me. We got the Micronesian Myzomela, top left, and then the Micronesian kingfisher, top center, and the red-billed tropic bird, top right, the Mariana fruit dove, beautiful bird over on the right-hand side, and then below that, the lesser sand plover, which used to be called Siberian sand plover. No, it's the other way around. It's now called Siberian sand plover. Used to be called lesser sand plover. Before that, it was called Mongolian plover. And then bottom center, we got whiskered tern, non-breeding plumage, and then the golden white-eye. These are lovely birds, and some very rare birds as well, including this crow called the Mariana crow. Less than 200 birds left. And top right, we got the Tinian monarch, which is related to the Elapayos of Hawaii. It's an old world flycatcher, only from the island of Tinian. So it's highly, very rare bird. And then the Guam rail was considered extinct, but there are some in captivity. They've been released to Rhoda and also in Guam. So we got a glimpse of at least one of these birds, the Guam rails, in Guam, in Cocos Island off Guam. All right, hold on. Okay, to review, a final tally was 889 species. So there are 5 days left in the month here. And I did come back to the US and chased 1 bird in Colorado and 4 more birds in the Rio Grande Valley. Got my total up to 889 species. 63 of these are ABA code 3+ birds. 810 species were photographed. Over 350 species audio recorded. Ultimately, species that were not either photographed or audio recorded or witnessed, there were 5 species in that category. I think I was able to put a spotlight on the US territories regarding vulnerable bird species. And unfortunately, I came up short of my goal, but established a new record for USA and territories. And there will be a book describing these adventures. Acknowledgements are long, and you can read through these names if you want to, as I'm answering questions. Thanks to all the people who helped me in my year, including tour participants, companions, tour guides and drivers, and other people who offered special acts of kindness. That's what I've got for you. So I think we have 5 minutes for questions, at least.
Well, first, let's just take that in. Thank you so much, Nick. Incredible storytelling. Can we get some love in the chat? That is just a wonderful story. Let's just take a second to appreciate that. Thank you. But like he said, accepting questions about this great adventure in the chat. I have one. Every time I've heard of someone doing a big year, they have the bird stats, but then they have like other like fun stats from the adventure, like how many times we had to pull over because we saw a bird, or um, number of times I had to buy socks because you don't think about these things, but it's just some fun things from the adventure that you kept track of.
Mhm. I didn't keep track of too many things. I did keep track of the number of pelagics the number of days I was on a pelagic boat trip, which was 17, which is quite a lot, I think, compared to other big ear birders.
It's a lot of
I also
fish.
missed 3 pelagics, at
Hmm.
least 3 pelagics, maybe more.
All right, we're getting some more questions in the chat here. First one from Zach Helper. How long did it take to plan out your big year?
I started planning the big year about 6 months in advance, or maybe 4 months. 4 months in advance. I didn't really do too much planning until just before it started.
Mhm.
And so one thing I didn't do is I didn't reserve hotels in advance. That was on purpose in order to enable me to make last minute changes in the itineraries. And yeah, so I pretty much planned it as I went. We used eBird to determine which locations to visit during the tours even. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. And on the idea of changing day of, to this hotel versus that one, paying in advance, typically you save money, but it brought Linda to this question. What is the total cost?
That's a good question. I think the total, I actually don't really have the specific answer to that question, but it was about $100,000 because I know, yeah, about 100,000.
A clean 100.
uh,
Yeah, ouch. Linda said, ouch. And did you take out insurance on a rental car? Speaking of saving money.
I don't remember.
Okay, well, that's all right. Last question here. You can really finish us strong. Other than writing a book, this question comes from Crystal. Other than writing the book, what's your next goal?
Hmm. Uh, that's a great question because I've been very focused on the book, writing the book, and I haven't really set my next objective or goals. I would like to put some effort into strengthening Quetzal Tours as a company and seeing it flourish in the future. But I haven't really made any steps in that direction yet. And finding the publication of the book is a lot more difficult than I was expecting it to be.
Mm,
Um, Finding a publisher is incredibly hard to do. You need to line up a literary agent. Literary agents don't even respond to people for several weeks or months, and it's been a big challenge. So if any of you out there, if you're a literary agent or know one, feel free to get in touch with me and I'll send you the manuscript.